peoples! Hoje eu vou aqui jogar com vocês um pouco de The Terrible in Stanley. Acho que é isso. Bom, eita, não tá vendo ela aqui. Não é original, é piratão mesmo. Deixa eu ver, triplo, alto, máximo, alto. Ok. E acabei de baixar, eu tava com vontade de jogar esse jogo e vou jogar aqui com vocês. E é isso aí. Vamos lá.
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
É a história de um homem chamado Stanley.
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy.
Oh, que lindo.
And then one day something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Bom, vamos lá. O gráfico do jogo parece ser bem bonito. É massa. E vamos ver como é que é esse jogo. Stanley. Tá, e agora fiz o que? Acho que é pra cá mesmo. É, pra cá. Pum. Stanleyzinho. 416, 415. Essa indústria é grande, cara.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Por que eu tenho que entrar na esquerda?
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Ok. Eu sou Stanley, cara. Eu faço. Eu tô controlando.
Ah, yes. Truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
No.
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Não, eu vou embora, cara, não vou te obedecer.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Vai pôr uma merda.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death.
Caramba,
Good
que
job,
massa.
Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
E eu estou... quase estou mais outra vez aqui.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow, yes, this room. What a beautiful room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Não, cara.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Sou fodão. Esse
Look,
personagem
Stanley,
é bom.
I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself.
Não,
Now,
cara.
I'm not asking
Quem
for
tá minha
me,
vida sou eu.
I'm asking for her.
Que...
This is
ela
it,
quem?
Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself. To put your work aside. To let her back into your
Ela
life.
quem?
She's
Viado.
been waiting.
Ela está esperando. Quem? Poxa, isso é escuro, cara. Eu não gosto de lugar escuro. Tá que pariu.
That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this.
Vou fazer o que aqui? Ah, atender. E agora ficou escuro. Não, escuro não, claro. 427.
Oh, Stanley, is that you?
Tô usando
Hold
minha
on,
sala.
sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Que porra é essa? Que pariu.
Gotcha! Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here.
Tá. E tu é quem, vaca?
This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
Bom dia, funcionário 427. Aperte E no seu teclado. Tá bom.
Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence.
Pode falar, cara. Por favor, aperte R. Ok.
Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life.
Exceto ele escolheu esta vida. Tá, não vou apertar não. Vamos ver o que acontece. Que pariu, tem que obedecer ele, é. Tem que obedecer.
But in his mind, in his mind he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful. And each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him.
Por favor, aperte 2 para assistir TV. Ah, cadê a TV? Cadê a TV? Como é que eu vou assistir TV? Ali.
And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly.
Por favor, aperte E para passar o tempo com os amigos. Ah, cadê eles? Vamos lá, coleguinhas.
So he went further. He imagined that he came to 2 open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold.
Por favor, aperte 5 para preparar para o jantar. Tá, vamos comer então, né?
As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable. It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time.
Vá aperte para dar dizer as respostas que você ama.
But there is no answer. How could there possibly be?
Não,
In
cara,
reality,
isso é
all
muito
he's doing is
clipe.
pushing the same buttons he
velho,
always
de
has.
novo, cara.
Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one. And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it.
Tá bom. Tá bom, não vou apertar. Não vou apertar. Ah, velho, mas não apertar não vai acontecer nada, velho. Vai cagar, meu irmão. Se não apertar, não vai continuar essa merda. Viado.
You see? Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself? I suppose I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again. And Stanley pushed a button.
Não,
and
não
I tried
morrer.
again. And
Por
Stanley
favor,
pushed a
morra.
button.
Nossa, cara.
And I
De boas, Hã? Ah, de boas. Ah, por favor, morra aí. Que eu tô precisando que tu morra. Tá. Legal. Tá vendo, cara? Ah, eu vou obedecer esse cara agora.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Mas por quê?
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a
Uma
memo.
tentação tão grande não obedecer esse cara. Mas vamos lá, vamos lá. Agora...
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Vamos lá.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Subindo. Subi, pronto. E aí, Zé? E agora?
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Tá bom. Vamos lá. E agora? Pra cá. A narração desse cara é bem boa, velho. Bem legal. Jogo estranho, mas é massa. Tenho vontade de obedecer ele. Tipo, ele conta a história, só vai falar, não sei lá. É estranho, vou tentar entender ele mais.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Puxa. Vamos lá, vamos lá.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Não, velho, não é meu escritório não. Não, velho, eu te obedeci. Ah, é não.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Cadê o 427? Procurar nada. E homem, tá bom.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof, the heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content, walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Tá, então eu vou subir aqui, cara. Quatro. Ah, realmente, mudou nada. Aí. Vamos embora então. Agora vai pra onde, Zé? Vamos. Ah, pra ali. Interage não. Vamos lá. Controls with input.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for. Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control? Oh, Stanley, well, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are said to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say, 2 minutes. Now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going. What all this means. I barely know where to start. What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated? All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them.
Nossa, obrigado.
I erased them.
Muito de qualquer jeito.
I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock. Why not? These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones, or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first, so you can't. Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing. No ending here, just you being blown to pieces. Will you cling desperately to your frail life, or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice. Make it count, or don't. It's all the same to me, all a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say, happily ever after.
Não. Ah! Por tudo que tu mandou, caramba. Ah, pessoal, é isso aí. Quem quiser jogar, procura aí, faz download. Eu olhei na Steam, se eu não me engano.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Se quiser jogar, é um jogo legal. É legal ele. É estranho. Tipo, te confunde todo. Você fica todo doido jogando.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Uma mensagem a passar. Ainda não sei qual é, mas vai saber. Deve ter. Bom, é isso aí. Muito obrigado.
Yet there was not a single person